Did I do that? Yes, sis, you did. This is part 30 of how I discovered I was being cheated on by Carl Winslow. So, on this conversation, when I was on FaceTime with Lily, because, I want to look you in the face and see, like, if you're being honest or not. Who am I dealing with? The first time that Lily knew I existed was from that text message that Carl sent and said, I'm hanging out with Britt. After that, Carl kept saying, like, oh, like, that's over. In July for his birthday, then he said, you know what, we're together. So maybe July was real. Maybe the trip to go see his family, maybe meeting his baby mama, maybe ring shopping, maybe he thought that was real during that time. Well, it was short-lived. A few weeks later, Lily says, but I don't know, I cannot confirm, I wasn't there. She says she accidentally FaceTimed him and then hung up. And then he calls back and he was with the boys at the mall and says, I'll call you later. And he FaceTimes her. And she's like, no, that wasn't intentional. But you know what, y'all know how people do when you're trying to get some attention from somebody. That's the kind of shit people do. So I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, she immediately says, so what's up with Brittany? He says, that's done. That's over. And begins to carry on with her as if I never existed. But apparently in the back of her mind, she still wasn't convinced because she kept asking. He kept saying, that's done. That's done. And then he started to say, every time I try to end it, something happens. And that sounds very similar to what he would say to me. Like, I think about breaking up with you every day. But then when I see you, that all goes away. Lily has no idea that we have had a whole life together. Lily does not know that we was in couples therapy about meeting his kids. But Lily was in Atlanta when Carl needed his 10-day break. So remember when I said I was going to Mexico and his heart started beating really, really fast? Well, Carl had already been trying to construct a way to get space so that Lily could come here, but he didn't know how he was going to do that. So he asked for a break. When I say I was going to Mexico, he realizes he didn't need an alibi at all. He could have just saved the shit. But it was already done. He was already coming up with a way that he would not have to be in contact with me at all. She was out here. So apparently she comes to town, he takes off work, and when she gets off the plane, he's got a bath drawn for her. He washes her body, gives her the whole spa treatment. Sound familiar? And when she comes out of the bath, on the bed lay a Marc Jacobs tote, a Fendi bag, and some roses. Now, a Fendi bag is pretty expensive. Sounds like he worked overtime to trick off on a Fendi bag 2 weeks before our year, where he gave me a journal. So she's telling me just like things and how she did call him first and he was like, oh, I'm sorry. He apologized to her like, but here's the kicker, y'all. One, that wedge pillow did show up while she was there and they used it. Two, he asked her to be his girlfriend while they were together. Before our relationship was over. He asked her to be his girlfriend. And 3, shit, I don't know what 3 is. Hold on. I forgot. Oh, got it. Remember those roses? They were hers. Okay, so run it back. Her trip was until Monday, the 11th. I returned on the 10th of November. Do you remember how he said, oh, I just want to continue my second day of nothingness? And I say, yeah, you continue after we have this conversation. And he said, okay. Well, what he told Lily was that his daughter decided that she was going to come home and that she wasn't ready to meet her. And at first he was going to try to get a hotel so that his daughter could stay at the house and they would be separate. But now that they're thinking about their finances like a couple, decide that they will save that money that they could spend on a hotel for when she comes after Thanksgiving. She was planning to be here the weekend after Thanksgiving. So that's how he finagles his way out of this. And not only does he do that, but she goes to a friend's house. So he's dipped on her. And I said, did you leave your roses at the house she was like, yeah, because she was kind of pissed. And that nigga came to the airport and gave me the roses he gave her. So this is when I am like, oh, not only did you cheat, but this was intended to be malicious. You know how sometimes people do things that only they know and they get the thrill of knowing that they know? That's what those roses were. And to make me feel very uncomfortable and try to get my best friend and my soror on your side when you know that you were living foul is crazy. To try to get me to have sex with you on a pillow that you've been having sex with another woman on is malicious, and it's crazy. And now after this conversation with her, and we talked for a solid hour, I'm convinced that he was trying to punish me. In August, when I said that I needed a timeline, a plan toward moving in the direction of me being around his kids, I said, I feel like I'm getting the scraps of your time. And he told me that kept ringing in his head. Maybe a month later, he told me that. And I feel like that was his attempt in his own way to say, well, if you feel like you're getting scraps, I'll show you scraps. And it wasn't until my conversation with her that I realized he was intentionally being mean to me. Like doing sick things. Those things are things that you do to an enemy. Meanwhile, when we would have our conversations and he'd always say, I'm never intentionally trying to do something to hurt you. I wish you would think about me as like being on your side as your partner. I'm never trying to hurt you. That's not what it sounds like to me.